This week on Painting Lines.
This could be his last Grand Slam season. I'm not sure if I consider him a major contender at Roland Garros.
If Zverev is up there, Sarundalo has to also be in the conversation, right?
Ready?
Welcome back to another episode of Painting Lines. Last week we had Cole Schultz on the pod talking about his journey to pursue professional tennis. I definitely recommend giving that one a listen if you haven't. Great stuff. Dude is an absolute beast, complete workhorse, very inspiring. And this week we'll be talking Madrid Open. No Alcaraz and obviously no Sinner there. But other than that, this tournament kind of had it all. It had a nationwide power outage, Squid Games guards in the stands, Zverev getting screwed on a line call, and then Ruud finally winning a Masters 1000. So even without the top two players in the tournament, I'd say it was a pretty entertaining tournament nonetheless. But before we jump in, just want to say real quick, if you're enjoying the show, please consider subscribing or leaving us a like. This helps the podcast reach more and more people, so that would really mean a lot to us. All right, Aidan, I asked you a couple weeks ago after Draper won Indian Wells if you thought that he could follow it up with a successful clay season. Do you think Draper now could be considered a threat on all surfaces and potentially a Roland Garros contender after his final run here in Madrid?
Well, let's start it off with going back to that question that you asked me. And I remember when you asked me, I was very skeptical. I was looking at his past performances on clay and was like, okay, his track record is pretty questionable. But I do think that he has taken a step up just overall in his game. And that's kind of what I said then. It's like if his step up can convert from how he has stepped up on hard court to clay, he's going to be a contender and he's going to be a guy that's definitely a threat. And I think we saw that this week with how well he was able to perform. I just know that even last week, I put him as my bet of the week for him to lose against Berrettini. And I do want to say, I think if Berrettini hadn't had to withdraw in that match, it may have gone a little bit closer, let's say.
Yeah.
But in the end, a performance like this does show that he has a very high level. Does it compare to maybe a top performance from Alcaraz or playing against Sinner? Tough to say, but I do think that he is going to be a threat for at least a deep run in Roland Garros.
Yeah, definitely. I think his run's going to come down to the fitness, right? Because this is a Grand Slam. It's best out of five now. It's not best out of three. And we've all know that he's struggled physically in the past. So hopefully he's, maybe going to take a couple weeks off. Maybe he needs to manage his workload and be ready and fresh coming into
I
Roland
mean, yeah,
Garros.
we saw what happened last time he did the load management.
Yeah, exactly. And then also we talked about this too, how that combination of, the big serve and the heavy ground strokes being complimentary for Clay. All these big guys are having some success now. So I feel like it was just a matter of time until he found his footing on clay.
100%. I mean, then again, you look at all the Americans and we still
Oh my
struggle.
God, I know.
Even though
I
we do
know.
have I think the big serve and the big forehand is like the definition of how the Americans play.
Yeah, I know. I guess we need to develop more clay courts, I guess. I
From
really can't give you an answer there, but
yeah,
at least there's Houston. So
exactly. Yeah, we still got our one
we still
clay
got a
tournament
clay
we
court,
can do
yeah.
well.
And we have an American winner. So that's all.
Exactly.
All right, let's get into the meat and potatoes here in Madrid. So I think it's very fitting to start off with Djokovic exiting first round. I personally don't think it's that big of a deal. I mean, he's already said he's really only focused on slams. And I think come time for Roland Garros, he's a lock for a quarterfinalist. I mean, I don't know what you think about that, but he's skipping Rome. I feel like he's going to get his head on straight and he's going to get back to his winning ways.
Yeah, I mean, I would have said he's a lock for quarterfinalist at the U.S. Open last year too, and then he lost to Poprin. So
Mm.
it's really hard to say that he's a lock for anything at this point. He's such a big question mark. I mean, going into that Australian Open, I was like, he's not going to make it that far just based on how he'd been playing. And then all of a sudden he makes a really deep run. So, like I said, he just feels like a very big question mark right now because we look at his past and it's like this guy was unbeatable for so long. And you look at the present and you're like, he's losing in the first round to not to take shots at Arnaldi, but kind of a nobody. So it's just,
But boom.
it's just how it is. Like you can't make any judgment really about how he's going to do.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are saying that this could be his last like Grand Slam season. You know, he finishes out the year and then he's done. After this, I wouldn't be surprised. I think it's all going to determine, or it's all going to depend on how he does during these Grand Slams. If he loses first round in all of them, I bet he's
Well,
done.
they're
But
like the
if
remaining ones.
the remaining ones, yeah, you
Yeah.
know, so I don't know. It's hard to tell. I kind of want him to keep sticking around though.
Yeah, but
He's always nice
I
to
don't
have.
think you can I don't think you can go from being a Djokovic to being like a Monfils, where it's like you're a guy that
Yeah.
maybe gets a couple wins in tournaments, or like a Chilich or a Nishikori, where like,
Hmm.
oh yeah, they were really high level guys and now they're like solid players in the top 100. I
Yeah.
don't think you can do that after being as good as Djokovic was. You saw what Murray kind of struggled with. Like he could still be playing this year. He just wouldn't be doing anything big.
Yeah. No, I mean, speaking of Murray, how much longer do you think that coaching relationship is going to last? Because I think they're like what, tournament by tournament, or is there?
I think they agreed to go after they did pretty well in
Mhm.
Australia. I think they agreed to go through like Roland Garros and see how that went.
Mm.
But I don't know. I obviously Djokovic hasn't seen that much success this year. So if you're going based purely on results, hard to hard to see what Murray's adding.
Yeah. Well, speaking of not great results this year, FAA is unable to defend his points from last year. Granted, he did have a good beginning of the year, but I feel like he's kind of dropped off then. He loses to Francisco Cerundolo's little brother, Juan Manuel Cerundolo, in the first round. I told this story last week. Remember, I didn't even know Cerundolo had a little brother.
Yeah.
And then I saw Jay Cerundolo. I'm like, what?
Yeah, kind of disappointing. I mean, if you're going to lose to a Sarandolo at this point, maybe Juan Manuel takes a step up later on, but you kind of want it to be Francisco because he is the higher level player right now.
Yeah, I know. And you're into the rankings big time. So have you seen the drop off yet or no?
For FAA, I think he
Yeah.
dropped into like the low 20s
Okay, so it wasn't that
overall. It
drastic.
wasn't that drastic. And I think if you look at like the race to turn ranking, so the 2025 ranking so far, obviously we just finished the fourth month of the year. So about a third of the way through the year, he's still in like the teens somewhere. So if you compare him to other players so far in 2025, he's still at a decent spot. It's just that can he kind of build back what he had at the beginning of this year, where he was playing like a really top level player.
Yeah, yeah. He also so he played in the Challenger right after this and he lost his first match. He had a bye right into the second round. But I was looking into it. I was like, oh, Estoril is a challenger. So it turned, or Estoril, I think that's how you pronounce it. So it turned out that Estoril was a 250 last year, and then they downgraded it to a challenger this year. But apparently for next year, 2026, it'll be a 250 again, which I thought was strange. I mean, I know there was a lot of restructuring with the tournaments, but man, that's kind of it. I felt like that was a pretty big tournament though on clay.
Yeah,
Maybe not. I mean, it had big names in it for being a
did Ruud
challenger.
win it last year?
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, I think it was just like you said, the restructuring, and
Hmm.
they had some weird scheduling conflicts, and they were like, okay, we can't really make it a 250 because it would like conflict with
With
obviously
Madrid, yeah.
Madrid.
Interesting, yeah. Well, Gabriel Diallo, Canadian player, he had a quarterfinal run. Let's talk about this. So he made the quarterfinals as a lucky loser, and he was supposed to play Carlos Alcaraz in the second round, but Alcaraz had to withdraw, as we all know. So obviously, a quarterfinal run is a great run, especially for a lucky loser. But were you impressed by this? So let me tell you his run. He had Bergs, who's a good player, but mostly a hardcore guy. He's ranked 50th in the world. Kamil Marszak, I have no clue who that is. Polish player instead of Alcaraz. And then he played Cam Norrie, who's currently 91 in the world. And then he beats Dimitrov, which is very respectable, but a struggling kind of like not to not to sound too pessimistic here, but kind of a on the decline Dimitrov, and then finally loses to Musetti in the quarters.
I mean, I think that it was impressive for him still because obviously, even after this, he ends at number 54 in the rankings right now. So it's great for him. He wasn't that highly ranked of a guy, and he was able to beat someone like, while Bergs isn't the biggest name, it's still a guy that's higher ranked than him. And then uh, gets really lucky, doesn't have to play Alcaraz, but still performs. He doesn't get let down, and or he doesn't let himself down rather by losing to someone that maybe he should beat, like Camille. Don't want to try that last name again.
Majstrak.
Yeah.
Mastrak.
And then same thing with Nori. Like, yes, Nori's played top level tennis in the past, but Diallo maybe was even favored in that matchup, and he was able to win it. And then he beats Dimitrov, who, while struggling, is still a top 20 ranked player. So I would say it's impressive for Diallo for sure, but I do think it also shows how much it helps to have that higher seed in a tournament. You look at, if Alcaraz had to play these same people, you would have been like, okay, maybe he has a close match with Musetti, but before that, you're just thinking, okay, he's on cruise control. And I just think it's funny to think about how much getting to that higher ranking, it feels as though sometimes once you get to a certain ranking, it becomes almost easier to stay high rather than like to get there. Because when you're number 30 in the world and you have to play the number 32 guy in the world in the first round, that's tougher than when you're the number 20 guy in the world and all of a sudden you have to play the number 55 guy.
Yeah, no, that's a good point. That's a good point. I mean, is he top Canadian player right now, or do you think Shapovalov is still a better player? Because I didn't remember seeing any Shapo have any results
Well, here's
here.
the thing with Diallo. I mean, one thing first time I ever heard his name was honestly when Alafia brought him up, because I'm pretty sure he played for Kentucky with Alafia. But wouldn't say he's the top guy. I mean, he's had really one big result here, right? So we wouldn't say after one result that all of a sudden he's the top guy. I still think FAA and Shapovalov are the top two Canadians until we see a significant change.
Yeah, and before you brought up Cam Norrie, who used to be a top level player, and then Alcaraz would have had to play him. That was. Do you remember a couple years ago they went back to back finals in the South American clay swing? I think it was like
Oh yeah,
Buenos
that was
Aires and Rio.
2023. Yeah.
Yeah, they had some battles, and that was like peak Cam Norrie, I want to say, like when he was really maybe not
But
peak,
but I
definitely
remember what's really was really
competing.
impressive about that one is that was kind of peak Alcaraz too. That
Yeah,
was in that
yeah.
2023 season Alcaraz was having, where like he felt unbeatable in every match he played.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I just wanted to bring that up that those two, like we would have seen a hopefully another good match, but probably not this time.
Yeah. It's crazy to think about how much it can change though in just 2 years.
And how lucky tennis is. Like this dude shouldn't have even been in the tournament. He was a lucky loser.
100%. I mean,
And
we
then
saw the same thing last week with the like really young guy, right? And then
yeah.
Mensik.
Yeah,
Mensik.
the German guy.
Yeah, the German guy. And then Mensik, remember that story? Like he was going to withdraw from the tournament and then he won a Masters 1000.
Yeah, yes.
So
Yes,
being a
wow.
lucky loser is such a big deal.
Yeah, no kidding. Well, all right, next up on the docket, we got Zverev. He loses in the third round here. This was my bet of the week. So Sorundalo is 3-0 against him. My question to you is, does he officially own him? Like, is Zverev his
Yeah, I gotta say, I don't know how official any of these titles are. I mean, yeah, like you mentioned, he's beaten him every time. He's like 3-0 against him. But all the matchups are on clay. But the way I would put it is, if they play again in the foreseeable future on clay, you have to put Sorundalo as the betting favorite. Even if Zverev played well in like the last tournament or is playing really well at that point, just the fact that he's 3-0 against him is like, yeah, you expect Sorundalo to beat him now.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like Vegas still won't do it. Like it's
Maybe
just
not.
I know. I don't know how they're shorting my dog here, but then we got Medvedev. He loses in the quarters to Ruud. Fun fact about this, he if Medvedev would have won, then he would have made a semifinal in every Masters series tournament, which is pretty damn impressive
Yeah,
for.
I mean, it definitely would have put him in like an elite group of
Mhm.
guys. Not many players have done that. And it also just shows a consistency of play just because you you're not going to make the semis of every one every year. So it means you have to play at a top level for 5 or 6 years to achieve that, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah, I know. And I don't know, would you have liked to see him accomplish this, or were you rooting for Ruud here?
I mean, this was a matchup I remember texting you. It's a weird one to think about because
Hmm.
Ruud hadn't been playing super well coming into this tournament. And I was like, well, he's should beat him. He is definitely should be favored. But you're like, okay, Ruud sometimes lets me down, and Medvedev sometimes lets me down. So you're like, one of these guys may play not up to their level. In the end, I think it was about where what you expected,
Yeah.
where Ruud beat him but didn't really kill him. So it's kind of funny actually when you look at that and you're like, given how relatively close it was, I think it was one break in each set. So not domination, but not the closest match. Could Medvedev have won the tourney if he had beaten Ruud here?
I don't think so. I don't think he gets past Musetti or even Draper in the final, if
Yeah.
that's
So you
how it
think
shaked out.
this was probably a fair elimination spot for him?
Yes, I do. I do. Musetti's been playing a hell of a game here the last like couple weeks. So even after that injury too.
Yeah. I mean, I think he's top 10 in the world now. So two Italians in the top 10. I guess it makes sense why their Davis Cup team is pretty tough to beat.
Yeah, speaking of, wow. Can't believe he's already coming back here.
Yeah.
It feels like
Center.
yesterday he was suspended. But all right, on to the final. Draper makes his second Masters 1000 final this season. This is a big result for him because I didn't expect it. We talked about this earlier. We know he's a great player, but we just didn't know how he would play on clay. And he's just kind of known for being more of a hard or grass guy. And I don't know. I mean, I'm just impressed by the way he was handling um, the short balls on the clay and the way he was like able to mix up his game, and then obviously get through fitness too, physically.
100%. I mean, I don't have much to say here, kind of addressed it at the beginning, but it feels as though he's definitely taken a step up regardless of the surface he's playing on.
Definitely. And then let's get into the main headline. Ruud, he wins his first Masters 1000 title. This is awesome for him. He's the first Norwegian to do so. He finally gets a big win after going 0 and 6 in the finals of like big tournaments. Um, I'm not sure if I consider him a major contender at Roland Garros as like a winner, but I do think a quarterfinalist for sure after this.
Okay, so I hear that, and my immediate thought is, who do you think are like the actual contenders then? Like, let's say top four guys, like a hypothetical, not necessarily semifinal because like they could play earlier in the tournament based on the draw, but
Hmm.
like who do you think are the actual top four players in the tournament that would have the best chance of winning it?
So Alcaraz Sinner.
I think yeah, I think those are givens, kind of.
I think Zverev and potentially Djokovic,
Zverev and Djokovic. You still think Djokovic takes that last
maybe
spot?
even Musetti.
Yeah, I mean,
Would you
I
take
think it
Musetti over
maybe.
Djokovic?
My question is this: like, where do you put someone like Sarundalo?
Oh, dude, now you're making it really tough.
I
Yeah.
mean, it's scary to look at a guy like that who's taken Zverev out three
Uh-huh.
times, and you're
That's
like,
a great
okay,
point.
is Zverev if Zverev is up there, Sarundalo has to also be in the conversation, right?
Yeah. And then I mean Deminar's I don't he's also in the same category as Ruud. Like he's not a winner, but I think he's
Yeah, it feels like
quarterfinal
Deminar. You're
bound.
like, okay, he can make a deep run, but then
Hmm.
he's going to play one of these top guys, and it doesn't feel like there's part of his game that can elevate to beat someone like Alcaraz. He has to just hope Alcaraz has an off
Yeah.
day or
All right, well, how
center.
about yeah, no, that's true. Well, how about this? Who do you think has a better chance than Roland Garros, Draper or Ruud? Like, would you put Draper in that fourth spot or no?
Well, I mean, we did just see Rude beat Draper, so I
But they could have different draws completely.
they,
If they
they could have
don't,
different draws. That's true, but I if I was gonna bet on one of them, I'd
Well,
probably say Ruud. I mean, Ruud
I
not only has
know.
the experience in Roland Garros of making the final before, he also just beat Draper in this match. So if they did match up, I'd be leaning towards
Yes.
him.
Yes. It's all right. I get that. I get why you would say that. I just think Rude is a little more spotty this
Yeah.
season, especially this season.
It's a weird one because you look at it and you're like, okay, well, Draper beat Alcaraz in Indian Wells.
Mm-hmm.
Would Ruud beat Alcaraz?
No.
It's really difficult to make that sort of the explosiveness versus the balance of
Mm-hmm.
consistently playing well. And so
Yeah.
that's what makes this kind of interesting is when you look at okay, who are the top 5 guys, who are the top 6 guys that you think actually have a chance of winning the title? It's like if Sinner and Alcaraz both go out, this could be a wild tournament
Oh my
because
God.
would
Wide
feel
open.
so
Yeah.
up for grabs. Then again, you kind of I mean I remember making our bracket for the Australian Open, and I was like, I can't see anyone beating Alcaraz and Sinner.
And
So
and that's how it worked.
yeah, it pretty much ended up that way. But I mean, it's it's really tough to pick against those guys.
It is really tough. Yeah, you made a great point about Sarundel earlier that I was also going to mention, like when we were talking about Rude just kind of letting us down. I bet on Sarundelo over Rude. I think he might have been like plus one. It was plus 100, so it was even. And I was so confident. I even doubled down on him after he lost the first set. I was like, oh yeah, now I got even better odds. Let's go. And he blew so many chances. He was up a break. He had break points. I was just like, come on. And I couldn't watch it because I was working, but I was watching the live score on Google, just like changing all over and over.
Dude, that's always the funniest thing to do. And you're watching it and you're like, has the point happened yet?
Yeah.
And you like scroll down to like the Twitter feed and you're like, did did I get any updates on this or what's going on
Yeah.
here?
Yeah, I know. It was like yeah, you're not watching the match, you're watching the score. Let's just put it that
Exactly.
way. Did you get to see Rude show off his Espanol at the victory speech?
I
No.
did not.
He kind of ripped off some Spanish. It was pretty impressive for a Norwegian.
Yeah, it wasn't like Blake Griffin in that Mexico NBA game. Hola, Mexico. You ever
Oh,
see
that's
that
great.
video?
Yeah, that's all time.
Yeah.
Oh my God. All right, so let's talk about Rude's run. So he had Rinderknecht, Korda, Fritz, Medvedev, Cerundolo, Draper. I think this is good on paper. Like, most of these guys are ranked, let's say, top 20, top 30, but they're not clay players. So I want to see what your thoughts are. Like, do you think it's a pretty damn impressive run, or is it just a paper good run?
I think exactly what you said. You look at Korda, Fritz, Medvedev, like those 3 rounds. It's like you look at that in, let's say, Australia. If you played those 3 guys back to back, you'd be like, "Damn, that was really impressive, Rude, to get
Mhm.
past those guys." You look at them on clay, and you're like, "Okay, 2 Americans who are known for not being great clay players, and then Medvedev, who is actively spoken about how much he hates playing on clay."
Clay
So
Vadev.
yeah, it kind of takes a little bit away from it. And looking at this, you almost want to say that Cerundolo was the best clay player of these guys. Uh, and then obviously Draper in the final has been playing really well. But I'd say it was an impressive run, but not as impressive as maybe it looks.
I agree with you there. I think Cerundolo was the most impressive one out there. Rudy even had an outburst this tournament, which we don't see often from him. He's usually that calm, collective, just stoic Norwegian, but he kind of lost it at an umpire about not doing enough about controlling the crowd. And even his outburst was like just very calm. Like he was speaking to the ref. He wasn't yelling at him. He was just pissed. And he mentioned something about he said a Norwegian fan would never act like that or a Norwegian fan would never do that. So I think he was getting heckled by either an Italian or just a very passionate Spanish fan because he was playing Musetti.
Yeah. I don't know what to say about this one. I just feel like it takes a lot to piss Rude off.
It does, exactly. And even his outburst was like calm. So it's just so funny to see it.
It's what makes Rude kind of unique like that.
All right, that about wraps up our meat and potatoes of the tournament. So let's get into some miscellaneous headlines here. So something I saw that stood out to me was For the first time in over 20 years, no Spanish player reached the semifinals in either singles draw.
Yeah. I mean, that definitely stands out, but it does bring to mind how many of those years were just Nadal making it, right?
I was going
I
to say Nadal has definitely been carrying that.
It's like, oh, 18 years it was Nadal, and then 2 years it was Alcaraz, and they're like, oh, no Spanish player has done. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
yeah. And then like 1 year it was like Badosa or something.
I was going to say, I think it's like a big deal because she didn't play in the tournament either, her and Alcaraz. So
Yeah.
they're just missing all their heavyweight Spanish, their firepower.
Yeah. I mean, in a Spanish tournament, it's a bummer for them, right?
Yeah, it is. It is. And then another guy that you had mentioned earlier, just about being an old was Monfils. He became the oldest player in history to win a match at the Madrid Open. 38 years, 7 days.
Definitely an impressive accomplishment there. I mean, it kind of feels like Monfils just doing these oldest player accomplishments though now. I feel like it's not necessarily him actually being a contender in any tournament.
Yeah, I do see Djokovic potentially breaking this record.
How old's Djokovic right now?
He's 37.
Yeah, well, if Djokovic retires this year, maybe we'll see if
Maybe
Monfils can
not.
hold it.
Yep. And so let's get into the celebs like we normally do, as you love to,
Of course, we
Aiden.
love the celebrity section
We
of the
love
show.
it. Celebrity section. So not as star-studded as some of the American tournaments, but Ronaldo was there. Soccer legend, pretty sweet. Some other people I didn't really recognize their names. I think like Spanish pop stars, but also
Shakira? Is
no,
she
no,
not
no, like
Spanish?
Spanish. I think she's
Okay,
Puerto Rican.
okay.
Yeah.
I don't know where
So
Shakira is from, to be honest.
um hips don't lie, right? That's
Yeah, I
her.
mean, she dated the PK, right? Or the
Who?
who played for Barca.
Oh, nice. Cool.
Maybe they were
Um,
married. I'm not even sure, but
dude, you got to get
clearly
up to
my pop
speed on
star
your
knowledge
yeah,
is
I
not
know. Come
not
on.
there.
Come on. Yeah, and then Stefan Edberg was there too.
Okay,
So
so
tennis
actually
celebs.
someone we recognize.
Yes, yes. And then this one threw a whole wrench in the tournament, the power outage. It suspended play for a day. There was a national just blackout all over Spain. And Deminar didn't seem to mind. He got interviewed or asked about it, I think a day later, and he said it was nice being off the grid for a little. So I could see him being like super chill, like, hey, I can't use my phone, whatever. He
Yeah,
said he saw kids playing outside, like people, kind of enjoying the weather, talking to themselves,
he's like, this
talking to
is
other
nice.
people. Yeah, this is what life used to be, huh?
Exactly, exactly. I mean, it's crazy. It's so many conspiracy theories. I talked to like five people, and the first comment I got from everybody I mentioned uh, it to, or like that brought it up, was like, do you guys think it was a targeted attack?
Oh, geez.
I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
conspiracy theorists are just running wild.
Yeah, what if Medvedev and Rublev are just Russian spies there
Oh, God.
infiltrating?
Wild
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah, but no, there was like some drawbacks there too. Like I think the supermarkets got cleared out because like you said, people thought it was like the apocalypse. So I heard stories of players trying to like find water at supermarkets and all the shelves were cleared out. So a little unfortunate there, but the other thing that stuck out to me was they had Squid Games, like people dressed up as Squid Games guards in the stands and do some like Netflix promotion bullshit. But all in all, I think the fans like weren't very happy about this. There's pretty negative feedback on Twitter. I saw a couple quotes so, like tennis is being used as a side piece promoting program. They're selling out for money. It's degrading the sport, which I kind of agree. I think it just got too commercialized. Like, first it's Miami Open shorting the like the quality of the tournament for the players, and now it's Madrid like pulling these stunts that should be, for pickleball or something.
But I mean, isn't Madrid kind of known for doing the stunts, right? I mean, they turned the clay blue that 1 year, and then I think for a while, maybe still, they had like it was Madrid that has
The models, yeah,
the
I knew
models
you were
as the
gonna
ball
say
kids,
that.
right?
Yeah,
It's
I
like
think they
this
got
kind
in
of
trouble for that.
exactly. It's like this kind of stuff is just clearly just a marketing thing. It's
Yeah.
not a benefit really to the tournament. So they're kind of known for doing that. I don't think it's that crazy for them to just have these essentially walking advertisements in the
Hmm.
crowd.
Yeah, well, it sucked that Alcaraz couldn't play it because the whole reason Netflix was like the biggest sponsors because they wanted to align the documentary release with the tournament. But of course, that never happened. So I think he still had to go and show face and give interviews and everything just because they were banking a lot of money on him being
It's
there.
probably that Netflix contract was like he would have to
Yeah.
do
Oh my
press.
God. Tell me about it. And then last but certainly not least, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention this week, but Sinner is back, baby. We are
Yeah,
back.
number one guy in the world. Nobody was able to take his spot while he was gone.
I know it's crazy. He's
We all
probably
know
just
what
sitting
Zverev
back.
did. Completely let himself down. His probably best chance ever to actually reach the number one ranking, and he started just losing every match.
I feel
So
like that's so on brand for Zverev, though.
yeah, I mean the crazy thing too is like Sinner gets back at a tournament that Zverev won last year, so Zverev can't even get closer this week. The
Oh,
best Zverev
jeez.
can possibly do is stay in the same spot. Like in the live rankings, he's actually down below Alcaraz now because he's
Whoa.
lost 1,000 points from last year.
Oh my God. He needs to figure it out.
Yeah, got to do something different, dude. But
Then,
anyway, you ready to hop into segments?
yep, let's do it. Hey guys, before we jump in, we have some exciting news. We recently partnered with TruePro. They're a great place to buy strings, grips, and tennis apparel. Use discount code Painting Lines, that's one word, for 20% off store wide. You can find the link in our bio.
Alrighty, what's new in tennis? What'd you see this week?
I saw Charles Barkley absolutely shit all over Roland Garros. I don't know if you saw this, but TNT was airing a promo about Roland Garros beginning on May 25th, and it was on their channel. And there was the funniest dialogue, like back and forth between Ernie Johnson and Charles Barkley. So first, Ernie Johnson's like in the middle of reading off a script, like for Roland Garros. They got the whole promo thing on the TV, and then Barkley just goes, changing that from French Open to Roland Garros is one of the stupidest things I've ever heard. And then Johnson's like, stop, stop. We're trying to keep a nice relationship with our partners. Barkley goes, we gave them 60 million a year. They can shut the hell up. And then Johnson goes, wow, probably the last time we'll run that promo. It was one of the most funniest, like the funniest, most awkward, just transactional dialogue in all of live TV, I thought.
Yeah, I mean TNT. Honestly, I gotta say, the fact that they paid so much money to Roland Garros and lost NBA inside the NBA
Yeah.
is probably a fumble on their part. I mean, I don't know how Roland Garros will do. Maybe it does really well. I don't know how much money it generates. I just know that Inside the NBA was a very popular show on their channel, so maybe that's part of it. Barkley feels like they're paying these guys instead of us.
Yeah, that could be. That could be because Roland Garros was previously on NBC, but then TNT signed the fat 10-year, $650 million contract. And I think, well, obviously, like Barkley didn't know that it has been called Roland Garros since 1920,
Yeah, exactly.
1923.
The French Open and Roland Garros are the same thing, dude.
Yeah, yeah.
Roland
So
Garros is it's like
but this might be a promotional blunder from TNT because NBC had promoted it as French Open like all this time. So now this year TNT, I don't know if that was like one of the requests or what, but they just like kind of pulled a little bait and switch calling it Roland Garros. So like tennis fans know, like true tennis fans, but I don't think the common, you know, viewer is going to be like, "Oh, Roland Garros, French Open." I don't think
yeah,
they put two and two together.
yeah. I mean, it's the same thing. To be honest, I just don't get like if someone says the French Open, you know what they're talking about. If someone says
Yeah.
Roland Garros, you know what they're talking about. So
Yeah. But did you see the video?
of him talking
Yeah.
about it,
Yeah.
I did not see it live.
Oh,
Now,
after this, you got to check it out. It is
dude, there's so many
hilarious.
great clips though from that show.
Yeah. All right. What about you? What did you see this week?
I saw that speaking of Draper, he broke into the top five in the rankings now. So another Brit is back up there. He's the successor to Murray. And the funny thing that stood out to me was that him and Nadal are the only guys in the 21st century to actually reach the top five players in the world. Obviously, there haven't been that many different top fives, like players in the top five, rather. And it was kind of stuck by three players being in the top three rankings for forever, pretty much, with the exception of like Murray breaking in for a little bit there. Uh, but even with that, it kind of stands out to me because they say that playing as a lefty is like a big advantage. And I'm pretty sure, unless I'm wrong, Nadal is actually naturally right-handed, but he
Mhm.
plays lefty for the advantage.
Yeah, I heard that.
And yet still at the real highest level, the top 5 in the world, you see almost exclusively right-handed players. So I guess it's just this sort of situation where not only are there far more right-handed players, it's just like at the highest level, it doesn't matter as much.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'm not sure about that. Is it just the reason they have the advantage is just because you don't see a lot of you don't play against
I
a lot of
think
lefties,
the
so it's like
difference
the
in
spin.
spin, the difference in
Yeah.
spin, like a ball comes in and it bounces a different way than necessarily what you're used to.
So you're saying you have an advantage over people, Mr. Lefty?
Actually, I have a disadvantage because like the one or two dudes I practice with are both lefties. So I play 90% of players and I'm thrown off by their
Yeah,
right-handed
that's pretty
nature.
funny. Wow. All right, what about bet of the week? Who'd you go with?
I went with the Impesi Pericard plus 120 over Thompson. Now, granted, they did match up a couple weeks ago back in Monte Carlo, and Thompson did get the win,
Ooh.
but Thompson hasn't played a single match since then, and he pulled out of Barca, so he may not be 100%, and I think that could play into this. And I also think that loss could be extra motivation for Impesi Pericard. Obviously, he's a young guy, so you take that loss and you're like, I'm not going to lose this guy next time. So I think that could play into it here as well.
Yeah, you just got to serve some bombs.
Exactly. If it serves on, it's going to be pretty tough.
Yeah.
How about you?
I'm going with a little out of the box bet this week. I am betting on the over 2.5 sets, Greek Sport and Kecmanovic for plus 120. So essentially, I'm betting that the match is going to go 3 sets because they've played 4 times. I looked it up, and all the matches have been at least 3 sets, like very tight, close, pretty tough matchup. I think Greek Sport does have the 3-1 head-to-head advantage, but I don't know. Kecmanovic, he played well in Estoril, and I'm not really sure about Greek Sport's clay ability. So I just think this will be like kind of an even match, maybe 3 sets.
Yeah, I think I'm going Greek Sport on this one. I mean, it like you said, if they've all gone to 3 sets, you gotta probably expect that to happen again. But I'd say Greek Sport
Mm.
is a very solid clay player. I mean, he really pushed the Roland Garros finalists last year in that tournament against Zverev and went to 5 sets, had chances to win that match. I don't think he had match points,
Mhm.
but had opportunities to take it. So I feel like that shows he has a high level ability on clay. So I think it comes down to if Kecmanovic can play very well.
Yeah, totally, totally. And yeah, Greek Sport is the I think heavy favorite.
But anyway, how about a match of the week here?
Match of the league, I'm going with a cop out. I'm going with the final, Ruud and Draper because I watched it live. I was really into it. So Ruud went down a break in the first set, but came back and won it 7-5. And then Draper had like a massive outburst on the changeover. I have no idea what about though, because I couldn't hear anything, but the camera was fixed on him. He was yelling, he was like cursing, he was kind of throwing stuff, just like looked pissed. So I don't know what that was about, but it was entertaining to watch. Must have worked because he came back, won the second set, forced it to a third, and then both guys battling out, but Ruud came out on top. And this match was also fun to watch because I loved the court level angle. It was super cool to see like all those Ruud heavy forehands that had so much spin on them. And something else I noticed in this match that Ruud was doing a lot was that like moonball floater return of serve, like especially on the backhand side. And Draper just wouldn't really know what to do with it because these balls would land, damn near the baseline and just be so heavy that Draper would be like already in a defensive position. But he caught on to it. He problem solved and he started coming up to the net more and taking that away by serving volleying. And all in all, just a great match. Like both classy guys. I love both of them in their own ways. Like they're not players that I really ever root against. And just excited to see Ruud get a massive Masters 1000 title and happy to see Draper, who's one of the rising talents in this sport, like up there too.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, I think that maybe with that moon ball is where you could actually, as a male player, get tips from like women's tennis, because I feel like because in general in women's tennis they don't hit the ball as hard. That can be a very effective shot. Just like if you put it deep enough, it can be tough for them to deal with. And I've seen in a lot of women's matches, the way they deal with that is they step in and take a swinging volley. So maybe that's what Draper should have just really committed on, some swinging volleys, and kind of scare Ruud off of that tactic.
Yeah, definitely. What about you? What was your match of the week?
My match of the week is kind of a heartbreaker, to be honest. Not a match that I enjoyed, but I do think that it was a really impressive performance by Diallo coming back against Dimitrov. I wanted Dimitrov to win, but you have to respect just the grit that Diallo showed, where very high, very like standard first set, where Dimitrov and Diallo both held, and then Dimitrov got a break at 5-5 and took it 7-5. Second set, very similar. Lots of pretty easy holds, and then it goes to this tiebreak, and the tiebreak is where really the entire match was won, because Dimitrov got 3 match points. He served for it a couple times, but just couldn't convert, and ended up losing that tiebreak 9-7. And this was one of those situations where if you get that close, it clearly impacted his mentality, because they came out the next set. Dimitrov immediately got broken, and then they just held on for the rest of the match, and Diallo was able to hold on for the win.
Wow, yeah, great match there. I mean, sad to see Dimitrov, because I know he's one of your boys, but yeah, tough one. All right, and that's the show. If you're not already subscribed, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube at Painting Lines Podcast. Feel free to shoot us a DM or email us any questions or thoughts at paintinglinespodcast@gmail.com.